now that I'm older, like I wish I would have known, like I wish I would have considered getting like a different, like I have life insurance through work. But like I should have gotten a policy, an individual policy a long time ago. You know what I mean? Especially because now I have kids, I'm a homeowner, you know what I mean? And you know, I have certain responsibilities, and now that my husband's no longer here, I'm like, I'm it, you know what I mean? So I'm really like, okay, what am I leaving for my kids if I'm not here? You know, last year I had a health scare. I was in the hospital. It's been a year actually. And while I was sitting in the hospital, like I'm calling like my 401k, I'm calling my life insurance, I'm calling like my, you know, my work life insurance, switching out my beneficiaries, because I was like, you know what, if I'm right here and something happens, I need to make sure that everything is aligned so that, you know, my kids are taken care of if I don't, you know, for whatever reason, you know. Of course. Yeah. After that, so I mean, it gets really real, right, for you when you're there. And I'm thinking, man, I'm like, what happens to me if si me quedo aquí, you know? And then I'm like, and my kids, what's gonna happen to my kids? That's the piece that, because of the seriousness of it, then when I was like trying to get like life insurance, it becomes harder, right? It becomes harder. And so that's when I go back and I'm like, man, like, Karina, you really should have done this when you were younger, when you didn't have issues. There's other life insurance policies out there other than your employer. You probably need more than one if you're a homeowner or if you're a parent. You know what I mean? If you're a parent, because I realize that maybe what I have now is not enough.
I want to welcome you to the Vibes on Chris Podcast. We believe energy is a form of frequency, and your frequency is what you frequently see. Our goal here is to get the information from the people who have it to the people who needed it through a form of a high-level conversation. Come and vibe out, because your vibe is your tribe. So let's ride.
So guys, what you're about to hear today is a very special story. We're gonna go through highs, lows, we're gonna go through dramas and highlight key points that we hope that you guys can get value from and can relate. But today is gonna be a very personal story and a touching message that we're gonna share with Karina. So Karina, can you please introduce yourself to everyone?
Sure. Hi, my name is Karina, and today I'm gonna be sharing a story about why I believe that life insurance is so important. As a single mother now, and as a businesswoman, and the reason why I think it's very important to get the message out about the importance of life insurance for others.
Absolutely. But before we dive into that, I do want to ask, who was Karina in high school? How would you describe yourself?
Oh, wow. Karina in high school. I guess you can consider me I was very studious. You know, I was in honors classes, and I was on path to go to college.
Right.
And to do all of that. And I was able to do that as well. But I was very, I guess you could say I was a leader then. I always had, I was kind of that go-to person that friends would come and seek advice, talk to. I think I was grounded. You know, I had my, I had my moments.
Like every teenager does.
Exactly, like every teenager does. But yeah, that was me. So that was me just going to school. I liked going to school.
Okay.
I liked being with my friends. I was always very friendly, outgoing with the group of friends that I had. So yes,
nice. Yeah. And what college did you go to?
I went to Cal Poly.
Okay.
Yes, I went to Cal Poly Pomona for a year, and then from there I was like, I don't think that what I was studying at the time, I was like, it was computer science. And I was like, oh, I don't know that this is what I really want to do. So then from there, I knew I wanted to do something with computers. So then I went into computer information systems, and I was doing that at DeVry, also in Pomona. Okay. I did that for 2 years there. And then life happened. I got a job, and I went into the workforce, and I kind of never went back to finish. I never went back to finish. So I have, post, high school education, I have 3 years. I just never got my degree.
Got it.
I never finished it.
Were you missing like a few credits, or was it a whole semester?
A whole year.
A whole year.
A whole
Okay.
year to finish my program at DeVry. There, it was 3 years to finish, to get the degree. And then I realized that I didn't want to do like computer programming, because that's what it was. It was computer programming at the time. And that's more for people who are introverts. And I am an introvert, but I also like to talk to people. I do like to be social. And I realized that was just not going to be it. And then after that, I went into the workforce, and I was working with youth that are at risk youth. And I really liked that. I liked that field. And then from there, I went on and worked in another, it was what's called like a day treatment school. Okay. It was for youth that were in the juvenile court system, and they could not go back to regular school.
Got it.
So I did that for a couple of years, and I really enjoyed that. I think that's really what I enjoy, working with community and just helping people, and so both of those jobs entailed working with youth at the time. And it was aligned with what I was doing church-wise. I was also working in youth ministry at that time. I was volunteering at my church doing that. So I really enjoyed that earlier on, when I was younger, doing that. And then from there, I went to go work for another company where, I was there for like 18 years. And that also was, that place was also helping out the community and helping families who needed subsidized childcare.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was also, serving the community as well. So I found that that's what I just really liked, just doing that, just helping, somehow just being involved in helping people,
Awesome.
So that, yeah.
And you still are.
Yeah, I still am. And now I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Also trying to help people and, help them put protection in place for them.
Because
So,
it's very interesting. Not a lot of people, or most people, don't graduate high school and say, hey, I'm going to get into the life insurance industry.
Yes.
I'm going to get into financial services. Like they usually go down the path of, I'm going to college, maybe find myself or find something that I want to do, right?
Yes.
So before we get to the path that you're currently on in this amazing career,
Sure.
Now how is it that you met your significant other, or when was it?
My mentor at that time was somebody through church. Her husband and my husband worked together at the time, so they were so that was a connection.
Wow.
It was through that, and he also was a faith-based man, so like me.
Right.
So from there, and we just hit it off from there.
Nice. So you guys met at, I guess, church, right?
Yes, through church.
Okay. And I know that prior to this, we were talking, and you had mentioned that you kind of went around the route of like having jobs, and all of your benefits, you would get them through your job, right?
Yes.
And they would check off all the boxes, and you were like, okay, this one has a 401k, this one has some life insurance, and so on and so forth. But you truly began to find out the benefit of having something private, something on your own outside of work, and it was around the time of...
It was actually when my husband became ill. So it was later on in life, not really much.
Not right away.
Not right away. Not at the beginning of my career, or throughout my career. I would say probably within the last 2 years. Probably within the last 2 years, where I really realized the benefit of having additional benefits, of looking to build something outside of what my employer was providing for me.
Got it. And when you say like building outside, man, because see, life insurance, it's more than just death insurance, right?
Yes.
That's why it's called life insurance, not death insurance.
Yes.
So whenever you're able to put a plan in place, you're able to get more than just a death benefit. You're able to grow with like supplemental retirement, and what else? You can also build policies for your children,
Yes.
right? Now, when you said that your husband began to get sick, you began to look into your plans, or?
You know what? I didn't know to look into my plan. So that's actually the reason why now I do what I'm doing. Now, that's the reason why now I'm trying to educate others about the importance of life insurance. So my husband had a policy, through his employer. And my husband was ill, but we did not know to ask, does his policy come with, living benefits? Something that he could use while he was living and not wait until the inevitable happens.
Right.
Throughout the process, throughout the treatment that he was undergoing, throughout that treatment, he was employed throughout. He never stopped working.
Wow.
He was in the hospital. He went through his treatment for about a year and a couple of months. And throughout that time, he continued to work. And there were times when he would ask me, do you think I should stop working? And as a wife, it's hard to say yes or no. All I could say is your body's going to tell you. Your body's going to tell you. You're going to know. I know he was concerned about, he's a man, he's a provider. And I know that was what he had up in the air, right? Should I stop working or should I continue working? And that's where the importance of having a life insurance policy, or knowing that life insurance isn't just for the inevitable when you are no longer here, that there are policies out there that provide living benefits, that you can tap into some of those benefits while you are living. If you are diagnosed with a terminal illness, which was his case. And so we didn't know. To this day, I don't know. To this day, I never looked into whether the policy that he had in place at work came with that.
Right.
I don't know. But because I did not know, and I go back and I ask myself sometimes, I can't help but think,
of course,
what if it had that in place? What if his policy had that in place and he could have stayed home and rested? And could have stayed home and maybe got well. I don't know. And unfortunately, I'll never know. Does that play in my mind sometimes? Yes. But I did not know. We didn't know to ask. We didn't have that information, and there isn't anybody that I knew who could share that information.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, so I just don't know.
And of course, I mean, during that time, the last thing you're thinking about is that, wow. And of course, I think it's only natural that would run, those thoughts would run through your head. Wow. So when the inevitable happened, I mean, how did that life insurance policy play out in your life and in your family's life? Because it wasn't just you, right? You have 2 children, right?
I do. Yes, 2 children.
Yeah, and one just turned a teenager, and you still have you have 2 teenagers now,
yes.
right? Yes, but they're still very young. They're still dependent on their parents.
Yes.
So how did the life insurance policy play out for you guys? Like, how did it help, or did it give you some room to breathe?
It has. It really has given us some room to breathe. That's what it is. How I got into the life insurance business is because, now I'm a single parent. I have to supplement, my income. And but in the meantime, I know that I have something available that can help me out in case, just in case. You know what I mean? And thankfully, his employer was so great throughout the process, walking me through the process of contacting, you know, the life insurance company. They were so sensitive with me when I was going through the process, and it just, you know, and actually once I went through the process of submitting what they needed from me, that was a quick turnaround, which was something that I needed at the time. You know, it just to be able to, yeah, just to be able to supplement. It's like all of a sudden you have an income, and all of a sudden that income is no longer there.
Correct.
You know, and I still have bills, monthly bills that, you know, needed to get taken care of. So that process was quick, and I'm thankful for that process, you know, and that it helped me,
Right.
you know, to just continue to, you know, to move forward. But because I know that I have it available, it gives me peace of mind.
Yeah.
That's the biggest takeaway for me, that it gives me peace of mind. Does that mean that I'm gonna sit there and just rely on that? No, because I still know that the cost of living is expensive. Everything, inflation just keeps on rising.
Right.
We see that all the time. And so, you know, I think about my children, and I think about the legacy that I'm going to leave behind for them. I know that I'm it now, you know, and I know that I have to be able to build something for them in case I'm no longer here.
Right.
So I have to be able to build on what I currently have now, to be able to leave something for them for in the future.
Yeah, and wow, that was powerful. I actually had a conversation with Nate, you know, your oldest.
My son, yes.
Yes, and you know, he shared with me that he felt like he was gonna have to, you know, work and not have a choice but to put in his contribution, not have a choice to have the freedom of, hey, I want to go explore a career, I want to go to college, or I want to go travel. Like, you know, at that age, it's a very critical age to kind of develop yourself.
Yes.
You know, and really find out what A, you're good at, or B, you like doing, right?
Yes.
And he said that not until like he found out that there was a life insurance policy in place, that he felt some relief on that end, at least.
Yes.
You know, that he's like, I can still be me. It just sounds so weird to say it. You're still gonna be yourself, but not really. When you have to go do something by force, out of just doing it because you're choosing to, it feels completely different.
Yes. There's room to breathe.
Yes.
That's exactly what it is. There's some room to breathe.
Yeah.
Some peace of mind.
And to process.
Yes.
You know, because so many times I've seen and I've gone to, you know, kermeses, car washes, or they just make food to, you know, get funding to be able to lay somebody at rest.
Yes.
Or GoFundMes, which is one of the biggest reasons why GoFundMes are created, especially right now, are to fund funerals. You know, and at the end of the day, one wants to lay our loved ones to rest.
Yes.
And in a place where maybe we can all go visit, right? And the banks don't stop.
No.
You know, the funeral homes are not cutting any breaks.
No.
They might be, you know, they might talk to you nicely, but they're not going to give no discounts or wait for you, you know? So the importance of having something in place, I began to really see it myself. You know, going through it firsthand, you know, having been in the hospital, that's something that brought peace to myself also.
And if it's okay with you, I'd like to share something
Absolutely.
about that, about final expenses, right? I had never gone through the process of having to plan a funeral for anyone. All the level of detail and the cost
Yes.
associated with it. I was like, oh wow, you have to pay for transportation. You have to pay for motorcycles. Yeah, so many expenses related to life insurance when the inevitable happens that I did not know. I had no idea the cost that it was going to take to do that. And at the same time, it led me to think, well, Karina, since you're doing this now, you probably need to do something for yourself too, since you're already doing this, make arrangements.
Right.
So it's just another level of detail that you really don't think about when your emotions are already running high to the point of, here, bring, what outfit are you going to use? You know what I mean? Like there's just so much that goes around it. But then I realized I didn't know there was such a thing as final expense, like something for final expenses. Like there was something available to people for that as well.
Yes.
So I think that's also important, right? I know that sometimes people may not think that life insurance is something that's affordable, but I think it's also important to educate people out there that there is final expense, like a final expense policy available, that can help you with those costs. I didn't know that either.
Right.
I did not know that either.
And you know what? Like talking about the price. I mean, life insurance is actually a lot more affordable than people make it out. May think it is. And one question that I always ask myself is, well, how much is it going to cost me not to? You know, like how much is it actually going to cost me not to invest into a policy like this?
Yes.
And hearing your story, I mean, obviously whatever the contribution was towards the life insurance policy, it was a fraction of what it gave you back.
Yes, definitely. Because when you think about that process and when there's so many things that go towards planning, celebration of life, planning, the service, the planning that is involved at the cemetery, all of that. And then to still try to think about, how am I going to come up with the money? Then you think about it, and then you see that life insurance can give you that, like what you're spending, what you could be spending, depending on the policy that you have on a monthly basis, in comparison to having to do it at one shot. Yeah, that right there is it's important. I think it's important to kind of highlight.
Of course.
And
that's just the monetary side.
Yes.
So and what I shared about Nate, how he shared that, just being able to have that peace of mind that he wasn't going to have to, stop going to school or having to go become the provider instead of being able to find his way.
Yes.
It's priceless.
Yes. Where it has allowed him to be able to find his way and not have to try to get a 9-to-5 immediately, right? Try to help get a 9-to-5 to help mom, right? And to help for the expenses. It's given him the opportunity to have a cushion and be able to explore what does he want to do.
Right.
And he's at the start of his career.
Yes.
But, and he's also part of this business, the life insurance business. He's also learning how to run a business.
Right.
But it's giving him that opportunity to do so, where he didn't immediately have to go find something that maybe he just didn't like.
Yeah, and on top of that, I mean, in the worst time that I can imagine, having to go do so. You know, it's not like he just graduated high school and in the best shape, right? And
Yes.
in the sense, best shape mentally, like going out there into the workforce. That's something that I actually heard somebody touch on. A lot of people tend to say, hey, you know what? We lay the person to rest, and then I'll just probably end up going to work and get my mind off things.
Yes.
A small percentage of society can do that, right? A very small percentage. But most people do not understand what it takes to actually have a whole service, as everything that you
Yes.
just described. And I'm pretty sure there might be a few details that you might be,
Yes.
forgetting at the moment or didn't mention.
Yes.
So wow, that is so priceless.
I would say that was probably about a 3-week process.
Wow.
It was a 3-week process, and I was that one who went back to work because I knew that I had to. Now, I could not stay at home and not. I don't know. Everybody has a different process, right?
course,
A
right.
different grieving process. For me, I needed to get back into the workforce and do something. And I found that community was also really important. Having a supportive community through work, through my coworkers, and through my church community, faith-based community and family.
Yes.
And family. I can't even stress that enough. Yeah, everybody goes through a different grieving process, and it's just hard. So you finish, you lay your loved one to rest, and then life goes on. But you try to pick up the pieces the best way that you can. But knowing that I had that was something that was going to be available, did give me like a sense of security, a sense of peace, where I could kind of relax and not go into panic mode of what am I going to do next? What am I going to do now? Do I have to go get myself another job? Because I have my 2 kids.
Yes.
And I have a house and I have bills. And how am I going? What am I going to do, right? So knowing that I had that was going to be available to me, it gave me breathing room. It definitely just gave me breathing room.
Wow. Man, I thank you for sharing that, because it's touching me, and it's actually letting me see another side that I hadn't been really exposed to in detail. But what advice would you actually have for a wife, a significant other that went through this? What was it like after? Because I know that shortly after that you decided to join this industry, right?
Yes.
Decided to start your own business, join this industry, and begin to inform others about what you wish you would have known.
Yes.
So
I had my very good friend who was part of this industry, and one day I saw a post if you were interested in making additional income. And so I said, okay, I want to learn. I'd like to know more. After I found out what she was doing and that it was life insurance, I said, yes, I want to learn how to do this. I want to be able to educate others.
yeah.
And once I started learning and trying to prepare and learn to prepare for my license, right? I was getting all this information, and I kept on having aha moments. I kept on having aha moments of, oh, I didn't know that life insurance could do this.
Right.
I didn't know that there were living benefits. I didn't know that life insurance could be a vehicle to help you save for retirement. I didn't, all of a sudden, my eyes were open, and I realized that all this time, I've been taught to, or, yeah, I guess taught is the word, to go to work, find a place that, you know, has benefits, and and just accept, you know, what they have. Not, I didn't know to look into other things, you know,
Right.
into other vehicles, and so now when you're left now, single mom, I think I'm like, okay, now I need to add this to, you know, so that I can build a legacy for my children, so that I can leave something behind for them. Why?
Yeah.
Because I'm it now. And if I'm no longer here, what am I leaving for my children? What peace of mind am I, what am I providing for them now, so that they can be secure if for whatever reason I'm no longer here? You know, sometimes we think that it's just illness that could come and surprise you, like it did with my husband. Unexpected diagnosis. But we hear of stories where people, unexpectedly, things happen on their way to work.
Absolutely.
You could be at a store. There's just different things that, and when I go back and I think about it, and I think, wow, Karina, I wish like it would have been good for you to know certain things when you were younger, like these things that you are learning now, when you were a new parent, you know, to think about, oh, there's other things, you know, maybe you should be considering getting a life insurance policy when you're younger, because when you are younger, you are going to be able to get that life insurance policy at a much better rate than if you're trying to get it now, right? Still important. Don't want to discourage that. Of course, still, it doesn't matter what age you are. But when you're young, you don't think about that. You're not necessarily thinking, oh, well, I could potentially get sick, or this could happen to me, or I could get injured. You know, just something, you know, something could happen. You know, when you're young, you really don't think about those things. You think that's for when you're later.
Right.
When it's later in life. And you think, oh, I'll need it when I'm older.
Just feel invincible.
Yes. and that's what happens, right? When you're young.
Yeah.
We all go through that. Yeah. But it's really trying to shift a mindset and educate young people to realize that, hey, you know what? Having this in place is something that, one, is good for you. And as you get older, or as you start to build a family, you know, you already have something in place, as long as you maintain it, right? As long as you keep on paying your premiums. I mean, it's going to be something that you're going to have for a very long time, and it's going to leave something behind for your loved ones. Or you just don't know if while you're living, you might need to use it, right?
Yes.
We were just saying, it's not death insurance only. And it's really trying to shift that mindset for people to really realize that it's not just for the unexpected, that you might be able to use this and tap into it if you have a critical, chronic, terminal illness.
Yeah.
You know, for those moments. And so what I would say to a single mom or a single dad, it's really important to have something so that you can secure your children's legacy, your family's legacy. And not just single parents in general,
right.
You know, parents in general.
Of course. Because
you just never know. And even as a single person, you know, and maybe a young person, you know, knowing that you can leave something behind, maybe for your family members, your parents.
Right.
It's just really trying to kind of look at it in that, with that perspective. And I know that unfortunately we sometimes, people may think that it's not affordable. or you really don't think of it as an important element. You know, it's just one of those, you think of it as an expense that like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
but it really is one of those important things to have in place. And I wish, again, if I would go back in time, that I would have done it when I
Right.
was younger,
Right.
and not just depend on what my employer or employers are offering. That it's important to have more.
Yeah.
You know, because as life we get older, and as the economy changes, we see inflation, and what we may have in place right now may not be enough
Of course.
for down the line. You know, so yeah, so it's just really, it's just kind of trying to put that into perspective, and just really trying to get others to think about the importance of it.
Yeah.
And protecting their families.
Of course, their families, and look, this even stands for. I'm sorry. This even applies to people who are young, single, and maybe not even planning to be parents at all, or maybe not planning to be
Yes.
parents for the next 10, 20 years.
Yes.
But these policies, they can be put in place at the best rate,
Yes.
right? And they can accumulate cash within the policies that they can
Yes.
then later borrow down the line, either for themselves or for when they start a family.
Yes.
You know, and last but not least, I mean, all the benefits that these life insurance policies have, in the case of living benefits, or in the worst case scenario, as something does happen to you and you're no longer here with us, all of this money is tax free.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's the biggest
Yes.
thing that many people tend to overlook.
Yes.
They see it as an expense, as another bill, but they don't see the outcome that this will have in their life.
Yes.
That inevitably will, because, you know, a lot of people tend to say, oh, I don't like talking about death. And probably not most people like talking about death,
Nobody.
right? But whether we talk about it or we don't, it's going to happen.
Yes.
You know, and now it's not a topic that you need to have every day, but as long as you have it once, you understand the concept of what the power that this policy has within it.
Yes.
That's all you need.
Power.
Yes.
That's exactly it. It's the power that it yields you. And once you really understand it, I didn't understand it before.
Yeah.
I understand it now.
Of course. Yeah. Same as
I
Yeah.
understand it now. And you know, and that's the key of just, and that's why I say shifting your mind, like shifting your perspective on the way the way it's viewed. You know, and that's why I'm sharing my story. That's why I'm sharing, because I learned the hard way.
Right.
You know what I mean? I learned the hard way. I go, and right now you were touching on those types of policies where, you know, you can use it for savings and, you know, and something to grow that cash value, accumulate.
Yeah. Supplemental retirement.
Yes. I didn't know that. I've always thought 401k, let's put money into 401k. That's all I knew. I didn't know that you can build something else through life insurance. You know, and maybe even put something in place for your children so that when they get older,
right,
and if they need it for, you know, to start a business, for school, whatever the case may be, that they may be able to utilize it.
Of course.
I had no idea that was available.
A lot
None.
of people don't know that Walt Disney himself utilized the life insurance policy to start the theme park.
Yes.
Not the company, but to start and fund the theme park. JCPenney from the JCPenney stores
Yes.
also utilized the life insurance policy. You know, the list goes on and on of big names that aren't really talked about.
Yes.
Right? And for myself, I began to see the power of it, and I got sold into the idea of, if it doesn't always just have to be for who was left behind.
Yes.
Right? It can also be used by yourself and for yourself.
Yes.
But in the worst case scenario, unlike a traditional retirement account, this policy not only has what it has been accumulated, but also what you are insured for.
Yes.
And, you know, we tend to insure our cars, our homes, our cell phones, you know.
Yes.
Some people even insure the weirdest things like laptops or,
Yes.
you know, smallest
Televisions,
things. Televisions,
yeah.
right?
Yes.
But we tend to oversee to ensure what actually funds all of that,
Yes.
which is ourselves. So
Yes.
life insurance, really, at the end of the day, what it truly is income replacement.
Yes.
And, you know, for a lot of mothers that are stay-at-home mothers or partners that are stay-at-home partners, they tend to undervalue what they bring to the home.
Yeah. Yes.
And I look at it, I know how much daycare costs. You know, I know how much hiring somebody to come and assist with the household duties costs. And believe me, just daycare alone costs more than what you would earn at a minimum wage job.
Yes.
And maybe even a little more than minimum wage job, depending where you live, right? Having somebody to come and help you cook, clean, and assort whatever you need to assort at your home, that also costs money.
Yes.
So for any partner that is out there that is a stay-at-home individual, it's not just because you don't have a job that life insurance isn't for you. It's because of what you contribute to the household.
Yes.
Is why life insurance is also for you.
Yes. Yes. And we and like you said, we don't really take that into consideration. You undervalue
Yes.
the value that you bring into your household for what you're doing. And if unfortunately you're no longer there, how are those things gonna, you know, get taken care of? So that's the power behind having a policy in place.
Wow.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Karina, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Sure.
I really appreciate it. I'm positive that the viewers that are watching this truly appreciate it also. Before we say goodbye, anything else that you would like to share with the viewers, you would like to leave us with?
You know, I would say that, you know, just hearing my story today and, you know, just to really kind of go back and just play a scenario in mind, whether you're a single, you know, parent, whether you're a young person just starting out in your career, whether you're a parent and you're considering life insurance for yourself or even for your children. Just to kind of maybe just take a look at a scenario and just play that out. What does that look like for my family if I'm not here? You know, to really just kind of take that into consideration and, you know, just really look at that. And when I say play that out in your mind is, yeah, really just take into consideration what happens if I'm not here and my income is not here, is not available to my family. What happens to my home? What can happen, you know, or whatever the circumstances, you know, there's still bills that are coming in. And just really, so it's not just thinking about, oh, what am I going to do at that moment?
Right.
If the inevitable happens. It's also just taking a look at, you know, what happens if I do become ill? We hear about people becoming ill nowadays. Again, my husband, unexpected diagnosis. That came out of left field for us.
Yeah.
We were not expecting that. And even then, when it did happen, when the inevitable happened, I was still kind of a little numb and I couldn't believe that it had happened. You know, so really, you know, just kind of, this is not intended to make anybody be afraid, Okay? That's not what it is. This is just really, the intent is to help you ponder on what life would look like in your household if you're not available, if you're no longer there. You know, what happens? And it's really just, really, I would encourage people to really think about that. Again, I've had to think about it myself. You know, and just kind of think about, well, what happens, what happens to my 2 kids if I'm not here? What am I leaving behind for them? What are they going to do if I'm not here? What happens to our home? What happens to them?
Wow.
Financially,
Yeah.
what happens to them? So and nobody, and I really, and I say this because even while my husband was ill, and we would try to have conversations about planning. How do you want this to happen? I mean, we went through this during COVID, actually. When COVID happened and we had a conversation, like we saw what was going on during COVID, and we didn't have anything like in place, solidly in place. And I was telling, maybe we need to look into, this, and maybe we need to start thinking about what happens if you're not here and I'm not here. What are our final wishes? Nobody wants to have that conversation. It's hard.
It definitely is.
It's something that you circle around. Oh, not today. We're not going to talk about that today. And understandably. And even while he was ill, even having that conversation during that time, it was hard because, we really just were counting on him getting better. And so being faced with having to make critical on-the-spot decisions is hard.
Absolutely.
The stress level that you're under when you're being asked this and that, and what are you going to do, and what's going to happen, and what does he want? All these types of questions. And then now you have to start planning for the next phase, right? I'm not going to say that it's not difficult, but knowing that you already have something in place can be just such a relief.
Right.
So I would just say, just to take that into consideration and just really see what the power behind life insurance, and what it can bring to you, whether you're going through something while you're living, or whether it's something when the inevitable happens and you're no longer here. So that's what I would just try to encourage others to just kind of think about that.
Yeah.
And think about it.
Wow, powerful. Thank you very much. I
Sure.
truly appreciate your time. I appreciate your story. I appreciate you letting us see a different perception towards what life insurance not only can do for yourself, but it does for your family. And we look at what life insurance leaves behind, right? As in
Yes.
a lump sum amount of financial gain for your family. But today you made me see that it's also priceless with what it does, not only for yourself but for your children.
Yes.
And if you don't have any children, for the family members that are left behind. So thank you so much for that, Karina.
Yes.